Okay, let's talk really quickly here about how could you open up attachments in other apps on an iPad. So for instance, right here, when you're looking at this email, you can see that there are 3 attachments, and they showed up in different formats, and that's on purpose because we want to show you the different ways that they could show up for you. First, we have one right here. This is a content rubric that showed up automatically appearing, as it will, for a download. I'll show you about that here in 1 minute. Then we have 2 other ones that are tap to downloads. Okay, so the first one, let's start with this content rubric. All that I'm going to do, and I'm just going to put my finger right there, tap and hold for a second, and then let go. And then what I now have are all of these options. So all that we have here at the bottom, let's talk about the bottom row first. These are saying just things about looking at them really quickly or printing them. If we want to open them up in other apps, however, all of these choices exist for us, and we can swipe to the side and see all of the different apps that we have that are able to open this. Okay, if you want to change the order in which they show up, you can click on the tap 3 dots for more, and we can move it around. So like, for instance, I'll move Notability up to the front, and then I'll have my mail second. So now when I go all the way to the left, from here on out now, Notability and mail will be the first couple. Okay? So if I push Notability, and I tap on that, and now it's going to open it in Notability for me. Okay? So let's have it create a new note, and there we go. So now I have it in there in Notability. Okay, that's great. Now, back to my email. And that was a 4-finger swipe in case you don't know how to do that. That's how I got back so quickly. We have 2 more at the bottom here. And this is also going to tell us a little bit more about why we want to download in certain, or excuse me, why we want to email and attach files in certain ways. Let's start with the first one on the left. And if you look at the fine print, it says it's called adding Oregon and Texas.doc. The one on the right is adding Oregon and Texas.pdf. I wanted to show you the difference between the two so you understand why it's so important that you attach things as PDFs instead of as documents. Let's first do this, and I just tapped on this to download it. Now I'm going to click on it, and in the top right here now, you can see up here, we have another version of how we're going to export. That's really what the export button is. If you think about it, it's a rectangle with an arrow pointed outward. It's saying we're going to send this somewhere else. If you think about this logically too, if there's an arrow going into this, that's telling you we're importing something in. But I'm going to tap on that button. Again, we have the same options. It obviously did not hold it the same way as I wanted to. But I just tapped on Notability. And now what it's doing, because this is a .doc, it is going to convert it on Google Drive and then try to import it into Notability. What we will see, however, is that as it goes through this process, it's running into some issues. And I'll give you the real quick explanation while it is at work. What it is trying to do is figure out how to move text boxes and other shapes into the correct format for Notability, because it doesn't make sense for it to do this. And you'll see what happens whenever we go through it. So I'm going to pause here while it loads, and then I'll jump back in a second. Okay, now what you see here is a .doc file with text boxes that is imported into Notability. What happened here? Well, it's not that I'm terrible at designing organizers. It's that all of the boxes that I had in here, it was hard for them to recognize. So you really don't know how this is supposed to look. I'll show you the real version in 1 minute. But right here, you can see there's questions in the middle of nowhere. These are supposed to be nice and clear arrows. And then these lines are supposed to be for that question that's supposed to be at the end. So it really screwed this up. And then you can see that all the images that I added aren't showing up. How can we get this to work right? Well, let's do this. Instead of adding this as a .doc, we're going to come back here, and we're going to add this as a PDF. And now let's load this in Notability. Let's create a new note. We'll include both pages. Let's push OK, and there we go. This is the note guide that it just tried to load. You can see that it messed up on all the pictures. This text box was out of line. These arrows didn't make sense. And then beyond that, the mental sweat questions here were totally disorganized, and the pictures didn't show up. So if you really think about it, what Notability and attaching things as PDFs really is enabling you to do is to have color copies for your classroom that can be shared in this format. So it really is a pretty nice feature of how you can do this. So going back here to our emails, again, the way that you're going to be downloading and importing anything or opening things in different apps is simply by tapping and holding and then waiting for the menu to pop up here. So that one is from a picture that's already been downloaded, and you can actually see in your email. Or if you want to use one of the ones at the bottom here that shows up as an attachment, You tap on it, in the top right hand corner, you select our export button, and then voila, you now have the ability to open up all of these documents in whatever app you would like. So there is our quick explanation here of how to use your email attachments, and also why it's important to use PDFs and not .doc files or other types of files like that. Alright, have a great day.